And just like that, Sean Bice, welcome to Bad Beards Podcast. You are the first guest here at Barber Motorsports. The first guest in this new den of sin.
It is kind of that way. A den, like in college, the den of iniquity or whatever they used to call it. Yeah. All you need is the beaded doorway to go through. They push it aside.
If you didn't think I thought about it for there.
I bet you did. Yeah. I bet you did get a little incense burning in here and all kinds of stuff.
Well, I actually, you say that, I have on my notes, like when I was in bed last night, knowing I had to be up early to be here. If you don't believe, what's where's it at? Right
incense, there it is.
Yeah, because I didn't know who I was going to encounter. I was like, this thing might get funky, and equally I didn't realize. So for those of you, welcome to the show. I am Sam Schneider. I am Bad Beard, the host of my show, Bad Beards Podcast. TV show, it's evolving. I am with Sean Bice. He is a man of mystery here at Moto America. What do you do?
Yeah, so basically I'm in transition with a title, but I started out being a kind of a storyteller, and I still do that.
Because that's your background. It's not specific. You're a creator.
Yeah. My background has always been in advertising agencies, and I'm primarily a writer. So I was a copywriter at ad agencies with huge interest in motorcycles, and it kind of evolved from there. And I started working in the motorcycle industry because that's my passion, and it kind of went from there. But now it's like I do a lot of stories for the website. Mm-hmm. I had been doing a lot of social media stuff, but now we've got a new person in there that's doing it. But basically, it's talking to all the riders. Everybody in our paddock has a story. Every person has a story. It doesn't matter who they are. Yeah. So it's always great to find out, and I like to ask questions. So.
Well, you are my mirror today, Sean.
Yes.
And so just to catch everybody up, we are in fact at Barber in Birmingham, Alabama. I did Road Atlanta, and I'm still running out those episodes from the fine folks I met there. But I'm at another installment of it, and so it'll be very moto heavy, and we're going to talk racing, and we're going to talk all things. But currently, we're in this new installation. I came out here by myself, and so if we were in a little tent last time, now we're in a trailer. We're growing up.
It's looking good. Yeah, it's very impressive. It's a good setup.
Thank you very much.
For such a short amount of time, you really put it together nicely.
Boy, shout out to Meg, my new fiance. I proposed to her last week. Thank you very much.
Meg, you sounds like you got a good one, and I bet you he got a good one too. So
yeah, no, she's stuck with me now.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but she's very creative and helped me in all the ways that she does. She's an artiste.
Very cool.
But we were able to throw it together, and I'm excited to be back, and I'm excited to be talking to you. And so, sorry to jump back in.
That's all right.
This writing background, the creative, you've worked in agency, but you've always been drawn to motorcycles. You're a motorcyclist?
Yes. Probably, it's been a long time, about 4 decades. So I'll tell you how it started. I grew up in northern New York, about 2 hours north of Syracuse, where I call it the frozen tundra, but there's a lot of northern parts of our country that they call the frozen tundra. 30 below temperatures in the winter, quite a bit of snow. So we had snowmobiles growing up, and I have to credit my dad. I mean, when I was about 12 or 13 years old, we got some snowmobiles, and they were Yamahas. And in a couple of years, I turned 16, and I was interested in riding on the snowmobiles, but I wanted to have a motorcycle too. So my dad went in halvesies on a motorcycle, and it was a 1975 RD 350, which is in mint condition. It's perfect still, because when
usually people are sitting here like, oh, I wish I never sold it.
Oh, I never sold it.
You got it.
Yeah, because one of the things my dad said is, if I'm going to go half on this with you, you got to take care of it. So, when he was around, basically when he'd come and visit me, because I live in Ohio now, he would come down and I'd take him out in my garage, and I have that motorcycle in an inflatable bubble. If you've seen those things that they put cars in,
have.
It's in perfect condition. It's kind of a shame. It's a garage queen now. I don't ride it like I should, because it's an awesome 2-stroke 350cc twin cylinder bike, and I love vintage bikes. I love all motorcycles, but that's where it kind of started with me. Once I turned 16, got a street bike, passed my test, and it went from there. And I was for years, I went to college with a degree, got a degree in English. Thought I was going to be a journalist and write for papers.
Your English has been impeccable so far, by the way.
Well, thank you, because where I grew up...
First language, it seems.
Well, the only one for me. Sometimes people think I actually have a Canadian accent, because I grew up right across the border from Canada, Ontario.
Everybody north of Virginia to me, that's Canada. It's too cold up there.
Yeah, it's pretty much...
Florida, man. It's cold.
Yeah, it's a different world for sure. But what I was going to say is, I mean, it just kind of went from there, and my writing brought me into advertising. I did that for years and years, and, persuasive writing is all about what copywriting is, and I just have always had a passion for motorcycles. And we lived in New Hampshire for a while.
Sorry to...
Yeah.
Persuasive writing, that's all copywriting. So that's not something I consider. Obviously, when you're writing for agency or brand or whatever, you have an agenda. But I've not heard it described as persuasive writing. It's like a very kind,
Yeah, you're trying to get somebody to believe in your product and talk about the benefits of the product and why that person should buy or own that product, and it kind of goes from there. I've always kind of immersed myself in the brands I've been involved with. I mean, there's been a lot of brands I've done. I've worked on Microsoft and Sprint for a long time, the cellular company, and I always kind of embraced it and felt like, I couldn't just, I had to believe in it in order to write about it. So anybody I've ever worked with, I've always believed in their product. And all this time, I've always believed in motorcycles and had a passion for it. So I have to credit a guy named Bob Starr at Yamaha, who has been with them for a long time. He's actually
on the corporate level.
Yeah, he was hired in 1991, I think. He used to be he used to work for a motorcycle dealership in Northampton, New Hampshire. My wife and I, after we graduated from college, we went to a SUNY school, State University of New York at Potsdam, which is 45 minutes from where I grew up.
Potsdam? I know Potsdam.
Potsdam, New York?
Isn't that where what beer is from there?
Oh, I don't know, but there's a Potsdam, Germany.
Oh, maybe that's it too.
Well, they had a long
Probably
time.
Another beer there too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's beer there. And they had some kind of a big war summit in World War II. They called it the Potsdam Summit, and everybody thought it was where I grew up, but it wasn't. It's somewhere in I think it's Germany. But anyway, my wife and I met in college, and she was a couple years younger than me. So when she got out of school, and we became engaged, she wanted to live in New England, so we ended up in New Hampshire. I was working for an ad agency in Manchester, New Hampshire, and there's a track there. It's now called New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but it used to be called Loudon back in the day. It was one of the age-old tracks that we don't even go to anymore because it's kind of a small track and it's a little bit unsafe.
Got it.
But guys of a certain age in our paddock know intimately about Loudon. I used to go there. It was 45 minutes from where I lived, and that's where I kind of got really involved in motorcycles and racing. I would go there all the time, and I started helping those guys out with doing their brochures about their events and stuff like that as a writer. And then I went through a headhunter and went to work for an ad agency in Columbus, Ohio. And I thought, I don't know anything about Columbus, but it's about an hour from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I love that track and had never been to it before. That's what brought me to Ohio, and then eventually...
Not the job, the track. You were
the track was like, well, the track's there, so I think I can take this job even though I don't know anything about Ohio or anything like that. I didn't, do you even know Ohio State Buckeyes? I'm going to put you on the spot now,
Please
Sam.
do.
Do you know what a Buckeye is?
Do I know what a Buckeye is? As I picture it, I mean, I'm going to throw the color, the red is in there, right? So maybe
Reds
that has
for
something
sure.
to do. An Ohio State Buckeye, it has something to do with a buck, I would assume.
Good idea. That's what I
I'm
thought
just following the language here, man. I'm not an English major. But
no, you're exactly right.
I studied Latin, so I just go.
I did too.
I did not.
No, I did. Roots of words are you're exactly where I was. I thought it was the eye of a deer because they're sharp, they focus well, so it's like a perfect thing
They run straight into cars.
Yes, they do. They do jump. Buckeyes are not fans of motorcycles.
Holy shit.
Or cars. But anyway, once I got to Ohio and I asked somebody what a Buckeye was, they said it's actually a poisonous nut. In Ohio, there are Buckeye trees, and it's related to chestnut trees, or I think it's chestnuts. It's in the family of chestnut trees, and they have a nut which is inedible by humans, and that's what it is. So.
Got it.
So their symbol.
So the Ohio State Buckeyes are just out to poison everybody.
Pretty much, yeah.
You heard it here first.
And the mascot is a guy named Brutus Buckeye that he wears this gigantic head, which is essentially a Buckeye nut. Oh. So it's like a guy with a head of a nut. And in Ohio, a Reese's peanut butter cup, they put it into this thing that looks like a Buckeye nut, and they call them Buckeyes, but it's peanut butter and chocolate that looks like it tastes like a Reese's peanut butter.
I didn't know what type of education I'd be getting here today on the Buckeye This is great. I came out for motorcycles. Now I'm learning some
about
history.
Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, and my Latin roots.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know either, and I mean, they're obviously they in the University of Texas always sort of go back and forth about who has the most kids enrollments. It's like a 50,000 student, body.
Well, I'm about to put you on the spot.
Oh, why?
Well, you know who the largest school in the nation is?
I thought it was either Ohio State or University of Texas.
Swing and a miss. That is University of Central Florida. Go Knights.
Are you serious?
It's huge.
Central Florida.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe my numbers are a little dated, but I don't think any fewer people are moving to Florida.
Well, so they hover around 50,000. So Central Florida must be bigger.
Huge.
Okay, I got to look that up. This
Please
is awesome.
Please do. Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to break this to my people back in my home state because they think they're the biggest campus in the world.
No, it's sprawling. It is.
Wow.
I'm from Florida.
Yeah.
I grew up in Fort Myers, Southwest Florida, over there.
Yeah.
And then went to school in Orlando, and so while I attended Valencia Film School, I somehow managed to get into a fraternity at UCF. And so all my buds and the kind of social circle that I ended up in was Knights. And so it was all the football games and the things and the stuff. And so I think it was around 2010 is when they had just surpassed basically everybody. And so
I had no idea.
As Florida continues to explode, I don't imagine the number has diminished.
No, probably not.
So, take it with a grain of Buckeye.
I got one for you, Sam. You can help me with this one. Okay. I don't understand this at all, and I think I'm pretty good with geography and direction. I tend to know like what direction I'm supposed to be in or whatever. It seems like University of South Florida is actually north of Central Florida. Am I wrong?
You are.
Oh, it is south of there.
And it's not related.
Right.
In the naming, but so if you're in UCF, and you want to go to Tampa. Me and Eric Spires did it in 45 minutes one night after a Warped Tour. You remember Warped Tour?
Yes.
We went to Tampa Warped Tour, and then we went to Orlando Warped Tour just as he was becoming roommates with myself, and we went way too fast. And we did in 45 minutes, typically a 90-minute traverse. But if you head west on I-4 and then south, you end up in Tampa.
Right.
Which is
South Florida.
University of Central Florida. Or Southern University of South Florida.
The Bulls.
The Bulls.
But it's not a whole lot further south of Central.
Oh, no, it's...
Right.
Yeah.
It always freaked me out. It's like, shouldn't you guys be down by, like, Miami or something,
Miami's got Miami. They're in Cuba.
That's a different world. They're in Cuba,
yeah.
Yeah, and there's no University of North Florida, I guess.
Actually, there is and I say this, it may be not UNF. That does sound familiar as I've said it, but, obviously Gainesville,
right.
Gators is there.
Right, Florida State.
And that's there. And then I want to say there's a school in Jacksonville, and I think it's like some type of...
directional school, as they call it.
I don't know. I'm going to get butchered in the comments, so I guess we'll just figure it out.
They always have that. I always think about that. They call them directional schools. In Michigan, there's like Central Michigan, Western Michigan, all these schools that are they're not the big, huge schools, the powerhouses, but they're Division I schools, and they're maybe just a little step down in terms of athletics and whatever. But our system in New York they call it SUNY for State University of New York. They're all over the state.
SUNYs.
Yeah, there's Potsdam, there's Plattsburgh, there's Purchase, there's New Paltz, there's Fredonia. They're all over the place. And they're all part of this big system where it's state-owned, which means it's supposed to be a little bit less expensive, which Ohio State University is supposed to be a less expensive college for such a big one. As opposed to for us, are you familiar with Miami University of Ohio?
Yes, I mean only in that I've seen the stickers, and I'm like, that makes sense to someone, not me.
When I was a kid, they would always say Miami of Florida and Miami of Ohio, and I never understood it until I moved there. And everybody in Ohio, it's only Miami University. You don't say Miami of Ohio because there's only one Miami University. It's in Ohio.
Got it.
Yeah. But that's quite a tangent we got off on.
Well, and I even remembered Pottsville is what I'm thinking of. Pottsville. Pennsylvania.
Pottsville, yes.
Yuengling,
yes,
is from there, and you said Potsdam, and I got excited because I like beer.
Yeah, Yuengling, you're right, it is there.
Yeah. And then I even had another thought. I got another one for you. Do you know why, or at least do you know, east-west interstate numbers?
Yes.
You knew this.
Yes, you mean east-west is even, north-south is odd. Yes,
Yeah,
I did
so
know
wherever
that.
you're at, if you see a number, you know what you're running into. And that was not something, I mean, I've learned it a while, but I always like to bust out that fact.
You know, that's one, too, that apparently President Eisenhower's the one that got that whole thing going.
Big interstate guy.
Yeah, he was all about it. And they say that it's getting older now, so the infrastructure is getting to be, the interstates are kind of aging, and they need to fix some stuff, so.
There's a laundry list of things to do. And so, I'll throw another tangent in there. I made a movie called The Crossing, and I took this is motorcycle specific, and I took a Harley 48 Sportster, and me and a buddy did all of Route 66.
Oh, yeah.
Which was almost killed by the interstate system.
Yes.
And so part of the stop that we made, and I want to say it was like New Mexico or something like that, or somewhere around there, we met the guy that's credited with saving Route 66.
Wow.
He had done all sorts of campaigning or some type of something with Congress to say, this is historic. And so he preserved, because all these, drive past, flyby towns were just dying once the interstate went in because, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was able to sit with him and interview him in a similar situation as this, not in his trailer, and there you have it, folks. We're here at Moto America talking about everything but motorcycles.
I got one more, though. I got to throw it out.
Hit me.
Okay.
This is a new show. We come on all the time.
Up by us, we have Interstate 70, which goes kind of right through the center part of Ohio. It's east-west, like you said, because it's an even number.
Right.
Right about, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 miles north of Route 70 is Route 40, which is it's like Route 66. It's called
goes all the way to Vegas.
Yeah, it's not the national road, and it used to be what 70 was.
Oh.
And of course, it's a lot slower and all that. But it's just kind of funny to what you said. The interstate was kind of put in next to a lot of these highways that were well known back in the day, and the only way you could get places. So, but it's related to motorcycles because some people get out on those roads and travel forever. I can't do that. I can't be a touring rider because if I'm going to do that, I got to be in a car. I can't ride a Goldwing or any of that.
I could definitely ride a Goldwing. What's up, Honda? Equally Street Glide, Road Glide, or Challenger, or any of the above. You call me. But I like long rides when there are. I'm not like the Sunday rider that's like, hey man, let's go meet up and
that's what I do. Yeah.
Because I ride so often that it's like, where are we going? I'll see you there because I like the destinations. I'm like, I enjoy the ride, and there's always adventure that are spawned from the ride.
Yeah.
But I like to have we're going to go here. We're going to grab a beer there, and then we're going to get a taco there.
I looked to where you were heading, so.
Yeah, and then we're going, and that's kind of how I like to do it. And so, because it's a constant journey that I've been on, and currently it has brought me here to Barber Motorsports Park.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Only 2 hours and 4 minutes from Atlanta.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And some people I've been talking to, they fly into Atlanta and drive over here instead of taking a plane.
I wouldn't even know where you would go.
Yeah, it's it's an interstate. I think it's 20. I think it's Route 20.
Yeah, I came here on 20.
Yeah, Route 20 is the one that everybody takes from Atlanta, and it obviously can get kind of busy, but it's a pretty easy run.
It's super easy.
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got here this morning via the 20.
Did you happen to notice there's a mellow mushroom along the way?
I did.
Yeah, you did see it.
I did see it.
We have one up home, and I was surprised to see it when I took that route.
Well, we have a lot in Florida, and we have a couple in Atlanta. But to see one over here was a curiosity.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, I didn't think they were around. I had no idea, and I was like,
I was in the mood. It was like 6:30 in the morning, and I was like, I could get some pizza right now.
It's good for breakfast, actually.
Well, so to jump back to the topic at hand, which is you.
Yeah.
Your background in writing, your background in agency, your background in all things. Now you've intertwined it with motorcycles, and specifically you said you like diving deep into the culture of whatever it is you land in.
Yes.
And so that is Moto America.
Yes.
You've been with them a long time. The position you've created. What is it you do, and how do you be you in your space?
It's a little bit of a position I created, and basically I mentioned a guy named Bob Starr who was in New Hampshire, and he was hired by Yamaha to be their head of communications or whatever. And at the time I was living in New Hampshire, and I was so taken with the fact that somebody from that area who I didn't know got a job with Yamaha in California, I sent a note to him and I said, really cool that a guy from New Hampshire, is with Yamaha. I love that brand the whole bit. So we kind of struck up a friendship. So over the years, I started getting to know him, and he would have me do things for him if they ever needed like somebody to cover one of their events. He would have me go and stuff, even though I was working in advertising and had a day job. It turned into back in 2010 or 2011, Yamaha's Superbike team was sponsored by Monster Energy. It was the first time. Monster Energy needed to have somebody promote their team and get the word out there about them. So Bob knew to get in touch with me, and so I left the sort of advertising world and became a contractor for Yamaha. And I worked with their Superbike team and Supersport team, and also their Supercross team as well. And it evolved into a bunch of other stuff, but it was all around racing for Yamaha's brand. And then I was a contractor for them. And back in 2015, actually it was a couple years after there, Paul Carruthers, who you may end up talking to, he's our communications manager.
Coming for you, Paul.
In 30 years at Cycle News, they hired him as being a communications manager. He was the first employee they hired in 2014 when Moto America started. Over time, it just got to be too big. So Wayne Rainey, my personal hero in the world, reached out to me and wanted to know if I would come and work for Moto America because they knew me in the paddock because I was representing Yamaha. And I said, man, I'd love it. I said, as much as I do with Yamaha, I would love to expand it out because I'm brand agnostic when it comes to the stories that you can tell in our paddock. So at this point, I'm not really focused on any brand. It's all about Moto America and any rider that's out there. Whatever you're on, I'm your guy. So
when you were in the paddock, what was your role? Were you just documenting, learning, curating story to then craft and create?
For Yamaha?
Yeah.
Yamaha was very specific. I would write press releases about every race that we ran.
Well, I also read on your LinkedIn that you're good at naming things.
Yeah, I've named a lot of products.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, this is really weird. This is a tangent.
Let's go.
I worked for a little bit. I worked for one of the agencies I worked at in Columbus. Owens Corning was one of their clients. They're really big in Central Ohio. And they came out with this machine that basically churns up insulation that's not in bat form. It's actually in a loose form. It churns it up and they blow it.
Stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the loose stuff. It's not the stuff you staple to the walls.
Right.
It's literally loose, and you can blow it into an attic. They created a machine that takes one of those bales of compressed material, churns it up, gets it kind of fluffy, and then blows it out of a hose. And they needed a name for it. Well, okay, Owens Corning, one of the things they're known for is the Pink Panther.
Oh, I was already going to go there.
Yeah, so they're known for the Pink Panther. I said, let's call this thing the Attic Cat.
Ooh.
Okay, and they were like, oh, it sounds like, I said, well, Arctic Cat's a snowmobile, but I said, it's not Arctic Cat, it's Attic Cat. So to this day, that's a trademark name that they came up with.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so that was an example of one name, but I would come up with names and taglines for all kinds of stuff.
I'm going to ping you on some things in here we're going to rebrand Bad Beard Show.
And it used to be something where you go into Lowe's, and these machines were in there, you can rent them out. You basically, I think it works where you'd buy a certain number of bales of this stuff, and they'd let you have the machine free. You could take it home, and you'd blow insulation in your attic or walls or what have you.
Yeah.
It switched from Lowe's to now it's in Home Depot. And when I go in there, I see those machines, and I just have to laugh because I remember having a fight for that name. They didn't want to do it at first, and I was like, guys, you have the Pink Panther. You're known for that. It's a cat. And the machine, they painted it pink and everything too. So
why not?
So to this day. So yeah, that was kind of a side thing I did. But with Yamaha, I used to do press releases about qualifying races, and they won a lot of races during the time I was there. Josh Hayes was a multi-time, he's 4-time champion with Yamaha as a superbike rider. They had a lot of success with J.D. Beach and Garrett Gerloff. Garrett Gerloff, who's now in World Superbike. J.D. Beach is back in our series. He was racing in flat track a couple of years ago. But all those guys were highly successful when they were with Yamaha. So I would do these press releases about how we did and always talk about Monster Energy, this, that, and the other thing. And it evolved into social media, too, because it was early days for them with social media. So I kind of took that, what I did for them, and brought it over into Moto America. And I still do press releases, although Paul does more of the fair share of those. I now write stories about interesting things that I've heard about something in the paddock or
So
interviewing
do they give you
a rider.
little carte blanche just to like, you know what I heard, and they're like, run with it.
100%.
Oh, that's great.
An example was the other day, a rule came out, a new rule in our rule book. We have a pretty thick rule book, but one of the things that they found the Junior Cup riders were doing is when they're going down the straightaway, and Junior Cup riders are our youngest group, they would try, they'd get down in a tuck on the straightaway, and they would even put one hand behind their back and go this way to try to get as tight as they could underneath it. Well, it's kind of dangerous to ride a motorcycle with one hand, Well, we all do it. I mean, we sometimes do it with no hands, don't we?
I was watching or reading or whatever, and I'm not going to even attempt to remember the names or the series or whatever, but it was, pre-NASCAR, and it was this racer that was infamous for taking every opportunity because he was like, if it's not in the rule book, it's allowed. And that was just essentially his mantra. It was like, I can't really argue with that. I mean, so it's interesting to hear when a new rule is developed that just gives opportunity for new tactics and techniques.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing about this idea of taking one hand off the bars to try to get more streamlined goes back to the beginning of motorcycle racing, I think. I mean, probably board trackers used to do it. We know flat trackers do it. Our own president, Wayne Rainey, I have a photo of him on a flat track bike with that tuck, and his left hand is down holding the fuel tank.
Yeah.
And so even our president used to do it. Well, now there's a rule against it. And it's because there is it's a little unsafe.
Well, you're wanting some longevity out of this series, and so if all your riders keep blipping, then you know.
Yeah, especially our Junior Cup guys. They're starting off. We want them to climb the stairs, so to speak.
Yeah.
We've got riders. Brandon Posh is a good example. He's a superbike rider in our series now. He started out in Junior Cup. At one time, he was riding a little KTM 390 and did real well, and he's advanced up through our classes. So yeah, we want those guys to be around, not get hurt, and continue racing so that they can be our future superbike riders. So yeah.
What is the fostering within the organization like? Do you guys have like a program that you follow, or any type of playbook, or is it just like everybody's unique and you just kind of try to set it up everybody for success? Or
yeah, I mean, for us, we've kind of gotten do
I have a shot with zero experience? Can I?
Well, let me just tell you, Junior Cup, believe it or not, Junior Cup, you can race from age 14 all the way up to 26 years old. I'm guessing maybe you're probably past that.
What are you talking about? Plus or minus. Yeah.
So that's a pretty wide spread, but you're still.
I was shooting for BTR. I mean, if I can get in a series somewhere,
Well, our series, actually, we do have an upper age limit. It's 55 years old, but we have some riders who are older than that because they just have to prove they
moisturize.
They do moisture. Yes, and they hydrate.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely do. They have to prove they're fit, and they have to pass some tests and stuff, which is neurological things a little bit. And since they've been in our series, you kind of keep track of them and know they're good riders and everything. We have some riders who are older than 56, so even though that's kind of the cutoff, you can still race past that. But you're right. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if they had a build train race for not women, just women? Not young women, but men of any age, and just get them.
I'm ready. Infield, hit me up.
Absolutely, they should do that because it's a popular series, and everybody loves seeing these young ladies do this.
Well, so I guess from my perspective, which is I did not grow up racing. Motorcycles were new to me until college.
Yeah.
Maybe a random dirt bike here and there growing up, but
sure.
nothing more than. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, all of a sudden, all my friends were professional racers, and they were all as fast as it got. They were the guys. And so it's funny, too, even, you know Chris Fillmore?
Oh, I love Chris.
Yeah.
Handsome individual, too.
He's a good-looking dude,
the ladies love Chris Fillmore, yes.
Boy, and Joe loves him the most. Isn't that right, Joe? But it's funny. I remember we had a conversation one time because I was expressing I wanted to hey man, get me out for a track day, because we'd go play in the canyons or go, for a birthday ride up to, wherever, Santa Barbara or something. And I was like, man, I just want to go faster. And he goes, no, Sam, I go fast. You do what you do, and obviously all the things I do is you do that really well. Let me go fast. And it was funny just because he's lived that life. I will never be as fast as him. However, BTR is almost like a gateway drug into motorcycle racing when there's a program in place that kind of fosters and shows you with support how to get there and what to do along the way. And so even for, and I'm sure there's countless schools out there that offer. I got a message from this fine gentleman, Lamore Schur, that I think he's affiliated with Moto America in some capacity, but I think it's through one of these racing schools.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so I know it exists, it's out there, but BTR is an exciting, way to kind of spark your interest in that space. And for young gentlemen such as myself, it makes it seem like, I could get in there, I could throw a leg over, but no, I think it's all great and
it's cool to watch them. One of the things I wanted to... So I was talking about that rule thing.
Here comes the persuasive writing, guys. Get ready to be influenced.
I did circle back to this. Okay. What I wanted to tell you guys about... So I saw this rule come out about this, no hands on the handlebars, and I thought, that's kind of interesting because that's like people been doing that forever. I'm going to write a story about it. Mm-hmm. So I did mention it to our operations director, who is Nicole Cox. She said, hey, would you mind letting me read it? And that's not required. And I said, yeah, I don't have a problem in it. She wanted to make sure and I said, you know me, I'm not going to criticize the series, but I'm going to put it out there. And I know we're going to get some comments because people are kind of like, are you crazy? These guys are professional racers. Like, you're going to tell them to do this or not to do this? So it's getting some commentary. Nicole was okay with the story, but it is what it is. They haven't decided what the if you have to go see race control in violation of this rule, they don't know yet what the punishment is. Oh. Because up to this point, it's been an unwritten rule for a couple of years, and they would bring some of the riders up to race control and say, hey, we don't like you to have your hands off the bars that long. It's not safe or whatever. One of our riders who won both races at Atlanta, I'm not going to say the rider's name, you can look it up. He was doing that. They didn't penalize him. He's leading the championship right now, but they strongly suggested he not do it, and they turned it into a rule. But I still don't know what the thing is, and it's all across. It's Superbike. It's all of our classes.
Well, all right. So my time in Los Angeles with working with guys like Roland Sands, they came up with the whole hooligan series, and it was there's that homie with one arm. What do you tell him?
Well, that's true. We do have.
He is incredible.
Yeah, we do have handicap riders. We don't have any racing in Moto America, but there are riders out there.
Call that guy because he would probably kick ass.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'm glad you mentioned Roland Sands because that series, Super Hooligan, one of the things about that series is the handlebars have to be above the triple clamps. There's a reason for that. Mm. Those guys, because the handlebars are so high, a lot of them at Daytona would do that. They'd grab the tank just to try to get as low as possible because those motorcycles don't have fairings on them, so you can't streamline as well. I had a picture of Tyler O'Hara, who's the defending champion of Super Hooligan from Daytona, and he's doing exactly that. Yeah. And Tyler, I don't know if you're going to see this or whatever, but if you do, I hated to put you on there as
he's my number one fan.
Yeah, our poster boy for doing the wrong thing. I know Tyler well enough. He might not be happy about it, but I showed him as an example of what not to do. Really? So I don't know. They're going to race at Ridge as their next round, Ridge Motorsports Park. I don't know if they're not supposed to do that, but well, they're not supposed to do it. I know they're not supposed to, but I don't know what's going to happen to him.
Wow, so, the evolution of the sport.
Yeah, but back to this thing about the storytelling. Okay. It was a story I wanted to tell, and most of the time I have free reign to what I can write about, and they trust me that I'm not going to write something. It's going to promote our series. Right. That was a little bit not critical, but it was announcing, just so you guys know this is something that we have as a rule. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Because we've all ridden bicycles, whatever. And I even made the point about when you're in driver's ed in a car, 10 and 2, mm-hmm. I mean, basically it's both hands on the grips. And
well, I got another one for you. Ready for this? It's no longer 10 and 2.
Is it down here?
It's
is it
some
12
offshoot it because of the airbags.
Oh, it's probably 3 and 9.
It's something different because of the airbag that you're then
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to drive a car with my hand down here, one hand on it.
We're not all as cool as you, okay?
Well,
Sean?
yeah, that's when I'm riding. Yeah, that's when I'm a low rider.
I'm just one of these one-handed, motorcycle guys, but
yeah, I mean, plus you've taken both hands off, I'm sure.
I let Jesus take the wheel as often as I can.
It's kind of fun, actually.
He's got a lot more experience than I do.
He does a good job. The balance is perfect.
And if I check out, who else do I want to hang out with, man?
I'm coming to see you.
Right?
That's
What's the saying? It's like everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just splitting the difference, a little left, little right. I'll see you there.
Eventually, it's going to happen at some point, but
We're all good,
God
man.
forbid it happens like that, though, Sam.
Just again, tangent. This is so fun. We're just bopping all over the place. Yesterday was Carlin Dunn's birthday.
Yeah, Carlin. Okay, yes.
I believe
You knew him.
I did.
I didn't know him, but I know of him.
44 years old.
Incredible.
His mother has been consistently, active on her social media, and I think they have access to his or whatever it is. But it was his birthday yesterday, and I shared a post because I saw so many people sharing, and he popped up so much, but. And this is just specific to people crashing motorcycles and racing and all things, but I don't know. I have like 1,000 things to say, and I guess I don't want to say any of them right now. So I regret even going this direction.
Well, it's okay, but I'm glad you pointed out about Carlin because I never knew him.
It breaks my heart. Don't make me sad on my own show.
Yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking, and I didn't know him, and you knew him. I heard everybody that I've known that knew him. It's the same thing, Sam. They're like. He's a beautiful person, just incredible.
The level of sincerity, and so I will say my time with him was brief. It was only over a couple of years, and so I was working with Ducati, North America, to shoot, this, that, or the other, and I had ended up going to Pikes Peak with him because we had just done Day in the Dirt at Glen Helen or something like that, and so with Fillmore and Annika and a handful of other people, but that's where then we were like, hey man, I think we're going to Pikes Peak together, and like, sick. But just that individual who also dabbled in the stunt world.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
He was I think it was with what was that motorcycle show? The Sons of...
Oh, Sons of Anarchy?
I think he did some work on that.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it was just a wild number of these things, but then to meet him and share time with him, and then fast forward to yesterday being his birthday, and then also to be at a race event.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in my noodle. I was having a rough one.
But that thing, I've never been to Pikes Peak, or I've only heard about it. I don't know much about it, but I just know there's not a lot of whatever, there's not as much of a safety zone. I guess that's the best way to put it. That's pretty much right what it is. It's the Isle of Man. It's actually
called the Devil's Playground. Is everything out just off the paved road because of lightning strikes. They jump stone to stone.
Really?
Yeah, and it looks like freaking Mars.
Wow.
And I think and I'll probably say it wrong. It was someone like Andretti or one of these guys had raced it once, and he goes, "That's the craziest race I've ever done." And so someone, just imagine if not him, someone of that caliber did that race and was like, "That's crazy."
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
And so that was
crazy.
His year was the last year that they did motorcycles up there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a shame that it ended up that way, but it's funny you mentioned about Chris Fillmore. I mean, he's the type of guy. I knew him when he rode motorcycles and he raced in Superbike for a while. Mm-hmm. And you just knew he was going to continue to do some stuff in the paddock or in the industry. And the fact that he's done what he's done with KTM over the time, and he's found a niche for himself. So even among our riders that after they're kind of done racing, they still have that passion and continue it, and they have such muscle memory that they can kind of go in a lot of different areas. And that's one of the things I try to promote in our paddock. We have a lot of very smart people. Mm-hmm. I mean, people think, it's not the Hells Angels motorcycle thing, but it's the idea that people don't realize college educated, or even if not, just incredibly smart engineers, technicians, mechanics, people that understand electronics are involved in our series, and they're also they're very well spoken because a lot of these guys have to promote themselves. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that can go on and continue in this industry because they're good communicators, they're very smart people, and it's beyond just their talent on a motorcycle. So they're pretty well-rounded people.
Well, it's just like aging out of any professional sport where it's like you've spent a lifetime honing this specific craft that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not the fastest anymore. You're like, what the fuck do I do?
Right.
that to be able to pivot and transition eloquently and with grace into a different role where you can still utilize all those same skill sets. And arguably, you put Chris on a bike right now, he's still going to win.
Oh, 100%.
That, like,
yeah.
It's funny how fast some of these guys are. But
yeah, he's amazing.
yeah, he's done well, and a lot of people do it. And what people outside of the motorcycle world as we operate in don't realize is how small it is.
Yeah.
And so even that I've just met you today, we've mentioned, any number of names that we know equally.
Yes.
Mutually.
Yes.
In person. So it's funny. And so guys like that, with the right skills that are able to foster it in the right way, will find footing in this space because people want to hang out with their friends.
Yeah, and it all comes down to this passion for, the sport, the lifestyle, everything there is about motorcycles. I mean, you get out there on a motorcycle, and you go by and you can tell that somebody just mowed their lawn. Mm-hmm. It's one of the greatest things in the world.
Smells is a big thing.
It is a big thing.
Yeah.
You don't get that in a car.
People don't realize if you hadn't ridden motorcycles, there's a lot of little nuanced things that the average individual that doesn't ride doesn't know.
Right.
And smells being one of them. When rain's coming, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel that just quick change.
Yeah.
And then even just like,
oh, that's amazing. When you get out in a valley and it gets cooler.
Yeah, you're like, how long are we going to be down here for? And then you're back up and you're like, why is it colder up here?
Right.
But any number of those things are just things that you know from being in that space.
It's crazy, isn't it? I love that about motorcycling, yeah.
I found my way circling back into it unintentionally just because of that culture. I've always, if I've worked in Hollywood, the place where it's just like as superficial, as it's supposed to be, motorcycles to me was a great equalizer because there's a lot of douchebags and anybody can be an asshole and whatever, anything, but you can't fake riding a motorcycle. You either can or you cannot.
That's
and
right.
So if you actively do it, then it's always been a fun thing for me that, like, you're putting a big ball of gas in between your legs and then seeing how fast you can go with it. And I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a great equalizer, and when you get to meet other individuals, wherever they come from, there's that immediate camaraderie where it's like, oh, you're fucking crazy too?
Yeah.
I love that for us.
Right. Yeah, and you don't even care at that point. It's like this thing about, whether it's Harley guys versus sport bikes or cruisers versus sport bikes. If you meet somebody in a party and you find out the person's a motorcyclist, you'll eventually get to find out what they ride. But it starts out, oh, you ride motorcycles too? It doesn't matter what you're riding. We both ride motorcycles. Yeah. We understand it. Yeah. So you got a camaraderie immediately from that, which I love. So it's the best part of it.
Well, so then what I am curious about is, what am I doing here with Moto America? Moto America is a race series, but there's a new page being turned. There is a new layer to the onion that I think I've kind of found myself in. That's with this bagger class.
Yes.
These hooligans that, the traditional race fan is growing. It's evolving, and there's new fans showing up. I spent 20 minutes prior to you running 10 minutes late talking about he's just like lives in the area, and he's a Harley guy. He goes, oh, you ever been a Harley guy? But I heard about this, and so he's new, and we were able to talk about all things, and he was just wandering around like a kid in the candy store, just oblivious to what he was about to encounter, but he was excited for it just the same.
That's a great story. I love that.
I won't tell you what we were talking about on this show.
Okay.
But it's interesting to see, and then equally me being here in my rebranded, name it right now.
Oh, well, I called it a den of iniquity, but I don't know what you call it.
In my den of iniquity, here at Moto America, I'm finding a new footing in a place where I can be me and participate in an environment and a community.
Yeah.
And so is that, with Moto America, is that a chosen direction, or is it just a byproduct of like, whoa, we just found ourselves in a different pool, let's go swimming?
It's a pretty inclusive, we're pretty inclusive here. You can do anything. That's one of the things about our paddock, Sam, is I find out things about people that I didn't even realize, like, really, that's what you do, or that's where you're from, and we both agree, we both love motorcycles. You're from a different part of the world, or country, there's a common bond there that really does branch out in a lot of different areas, and it's like this king of the baggers thing. Some of the purists are like, oh, you're not supposed to race those things. The first time we did it at Laguna Seca, I saw it and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And now it's like, this is the coolest thing we're doing these days. Because these guys are on these motorcycles, and they're truly race bikes, 600-pound motorcycles. And just to see what they do, the talent that they put into it, and the speed that they get out of those things, I just love it.
Yeah.
You know, I absolutely love it. I wouldn't do it myself. I wouldn't buy one of those bikes maybe at this point in my life, but I have a huge appreciation for them. So, but you know, I think you and I are pretty different. But look at what we agree on. We agree on a lot of stuff here. So, I just meet people that, with me, it's changed over the years. But a lot of people, when I was working at ad agencies, and I would tell them I rode motorcycles, they couldn't believe it. They didn't think a person that looked like me would even be, because they thought it was a leather jacket. It was the do-rag, as they call it. I don't know if that's politically incorrect to say, but you know, the bandana over their head.
It's a hairdo rag.
Yeah, it is. That's where the name comes from.
Okay.
I do too.
Don't take my syrup.
Yeah. But I think they thought they had this picture of this, what a motorcyclist is like, and you can't define them by you know, except you put them on a motorcycle. It's still a human being, but it's what we have in common is we're all on these two-wheeled motorized things, and they're not necessarily even gas-powered. They can be battery-powered, too. So
you know, you're seeing internal to Moto America, the inclusivity is expanding, and you guys are just like, we're just going to go with it. And so you're opening your arms to a new...
We're just going to go with it, yeah. We're just going to go with it. I think it's something that people, even if you don't ride a motorcycle, you can aspire to watching, because... the racing, they're extremely talented guys, and you know, we ride, we can do some things, but there's like a 1 or 2% above that's like, these guys are exceptional. There are guys out there that do stuff that I don't even know how they do it, how they go around the track that fast. You know,
I can't tell you the number of times I try to keep up with any of the ding dong friends I have.
Oh yeah,
that are like, it would be akin to me wanting to play NBA basketball.
yeah.
It's that dramatic. I could be pretty good at shooting hoops.
Yeah.
But to say that I'm going to go out and play NBA basketball is like, no, you're not. And that's when I ride with them. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. They're like, no, you're not.
Right.
And then they're, again.
Yeah. I always have this analogy. This is back to college, and where I grew up. When I was a kid, we used to play hockey on a farm pond. Basically, we would shovel it off. Yeah, I lived in a small town where we didn't have organized hockey, but I loved the sport. So we used to play.
Were you in the Mighty Ducks? Is this?
It's not going to get that far. It's going to be ended long before that.
There's an attorney got a DUI, and he came and saw you out on the ice and pulled his limb.
I would have loved that to happen.
Okay.
Although, guys, I'm a big fan of the movie Youngblood. Look it up. Rob Lowe is in it, and Patrick Swayze. It's really a good movie.
I'll watch anything with Patrick Swayze in it.
Yeah, he's really good, and it's kind of a quasi-Canadian, you know, but it's about hockey. But anyway, so I went to this school, this SUNY school, Potsdam, had 3,500 kids in the whole 4-year school. Well, we had a Division III hockey team, and we also had intramural hockey. I went there, and I thought, yeah, I played some hockey. I might try to play intramurals. I went out there with the intramural hockey players, and a lot of the kids from my school are from Long Island, and Long Islanders are big into hockey. I sucked. I could not. I just went out there, and I'm like, I can't do any of this.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that. It's like I thought I could skate pretty well and could play. No, I can't. I mean, I can do it recreationally, but it's not going to go much further than that. I couldn't race. You know, I don't have that ability. I just don't.
Well, I love the guys that do, and I love them for it, and that's why I love backers. You know, I like having fun, but I have no agenda other than to arrive alive, and probably with music that's way too loud, and probably a couple cases of beer in each of my bags. But
everybody's always, what's in them bags?
Yeah,
out on the track.
Well, so you see the bike that's out front that my custom. Check it out yet?
Oh yes.
So there's 2 fuel canisters.
Oh.
There's not fuel in the canisters. I got 1 whiskey, 1 water.
Oh.
Because the builder of the bike, just so I'm not like outing myself as a hardcore alcoholic, is Rebel Yell Bourbon.
Wow.
They were there's a longer story than this, but that's what's in there, and water, but I digress.
Sam, tell the people about what your bike looks like out there right now.
Actually, it's covered in mud right now because there's no ramp here at Barber Motorsports, where the biggest motorcycle museum. The entire facility has no ramp to unload a motorcycle from a truck. So I backed up to a hill and try to pull myself off, and it was the most gelatinous quicksand that I could have backed into, and I fell completely on my side. It is a lovely Triumph Speed Triple 1050. 2007, 14, 9, and everything in between, because it's called Frank. It's many pieces Frankenstein
Perfect.
together.
Yes.
Yeah, built by Classified Moto out of Richmond, Virginia. John, very talented builder. He builds the Walking Dead bikes. That's why it looks like a Mad Max.
It's a super cool looking bike.
It's really cool. It's a great attention grabber.
And I like that kind of bike too. That kind of apocalyptic sort of
it fits
look.
me. Well, I mean, it's covered. It fell over, myself included, in the mud. I did nothing to clean it up, and it still looks perfect.
Was anybody around when this happened? Did anybody see you?
Just Jesus. He had the wheel.
Okay.
Let him have it, and that's why I went sideways, I suppose. But
I didn't know, because sometimes people might come over to help you, but other people might be over in the back kind of trying to laugh at you or something.
Well, Clinton over here at KTM.
Oh, okay.
He's got a lovely trailer with a big old gate, but he had a long call. And so I didn't get a chance to ask him, so he probably saw at a distance and he was smoking a cigarette. He's like, oh, I guess he doesn't need any help.
You're resourceful, I know that.
I guess so. Well, and if anything, I should take it on the parade lap.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You should. And yeah, they probably won't make you hose it down, because I mean, what's the chance of mud comp falling off and landing on the track and causing a hazard?
I mean, it just comes whipping off every direction. Yeah. Well, shoot, I mean, I don't want to steal all the time from all of my other guests, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I could do it for the next several hours.
We did go for a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to read from here. We're at 50 minutes and 59 seconds.
Wow.
Time flies when you're talking Pottsville, Pennsylvania, home of Yingling beer.
That's right. Pottsville, Pennsylvania. That's right. And we circle back to that. So
Sean Bice, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing where the road takes us together.
Yeah.
We'll have another conversation having nothing to do with anything at the same time, all involving all of it.
That's so good.
Man, I appreciate you.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
thank you, Sam.
so much. And then this is your time to shine for whatever is relevant to you. Your camera here, the wide camera. You can plug yourself. You can plug something whatever.
Oh, well, of course, I'm going to plug a Moto America as a representative. I mean, for sure, you guys go to MotoAmerica.com, subscribe to Live Plus. It's our streaming service where if you're not at one of these rounds, or even if you are, you can watch all of our racing practices, all of our sessions. And, then we have a lot of stuff on YouTube now. We provide a lot of free content of our racing. And it's
free for now, but apparently you're going to start paying real soon.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. I that's above my, speaking money, pay scale. But I will say that. So Moto America Live Plus, and go to MotoAmerica.com, and you can read some of the stories I've written. And also, if I may, Sam, I have a podcast called Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. That is Paul Carruthers, our communications manager. He and I do it together, and we have a guest on. It's generally somebody from our paddock. It's trying to tell us these stories about these, multi-hundred riders that we have in our paddock.
Cool.
Because everybody's got a story to tell, and we want to get it out there. So those are the two things.
Where do we find that podcast?
It's on, I guess, all the ones that you would think of. YouTube for sure. It's on our website. It's on Apple, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple funny names out there that Podbean for sure. Buzzsprout, definitely Buzzsprout.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good, we're getting a good following. What we've heard, and you probably know this about podcasts, we do it video like you guys do too, but the audio part of it is pretty important too. So most of the teams in our paddock, a lot of them don't fly. They travel long distances with their motorcycles and transporters. Mm-hmm. Well, they listen to the podcast. So they'll get here and they'll go, I just saw your podcast with Jarrett Nassani, who is a super sport rider for Altus Motorsports. He said, I hadn't really heard that kid works. He works for the Air Force Base in Altus, Oklahoma. He works for Boeing, actually. We found out about that part of his career and how he makes a living in order to finance his racing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So podcast to podcast. I just wanted to mention that.
The more you know.
The more you know, yep. It's all about it. But thank you.
No, thank
really
you.
Good.
Well, and I don't have any paddock experience, but if you ever want me on your show, I can come.
We'll do it.
Blither.
Oh, we'll definitely do it.
I'll come with persuasive.
Especially if we get Paul in here, we'll have to have you return the favor for sure.
And this continues to evolve. It'll get bigger still, and then I do have options if we have a third guest come in.
Oh, good. Okay.
So we can always expand. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And until next time.
Okay, sounds good.
That was it, man.
That was good.
Huh?
I'll get